Hello and welcome to Gimmicky Tech, the series about underrated decks and their underrated tech. And this month we aren't here to learn a deck, but to destroy it. And what's the target of my anger today? Goddamn Gustos. Gustos is one dual tonal archetype that makes my blood boil. Miss Valley had an interesting but failed take on a gimmick. Ally Justice was a waste of time to begin with, so why would you get angry over that? Even Steel Swarms had an interesting aesthetic, and it's linked to the much better Evil Swarm archetype. But Gustos? Their archetype has two playable cards, with its main gimmick being a shitty battle floating archetype, where its only redeeming feature is the fact it gave us Vigil Beast via the dual tonal lore. I would have spent this whole video demolishing the archetype if it wasn't for Dawn of Majesty giving us 3 new Gusto cards that are too good for their own good, which brings the deck to a total of 5 playable cards. With the new support and the amazingly good generic win support cards in the game already, I think there is a basis for a good Gusto deck now, so let's see if this archetype can make me like them. But first, it's time to take a trip down dual tonal lore. I tried to go for a pun instead of lane, it was lore. So, yeah, let's just move on. Okay, disclaimer, I'm obviously a massive Vigil Beast stan. If you haven't seen my banner, or the Vigil Beast video, or the newest tweets I've made making fun of Gustos, so my bias against Gusto is going to seep through. Just because I am biased does not mean the archetype is still bad, but I may make it look more worse than it is. I will try my best to turn my bias into humour, but I can't guarantee that will work, so I will also try my best to stay objective on the cards. Except for Gusto Condor, the card is garbage for a very good reason. For everything else, completely fair, non-biased criticism. Maybe. Okay, I know I said we would talk about dual tonal lore, but I didn't mean it literally because, to go on a small tangent, dual tonal lore both confused me and scares me at the same time. At a surface level, I believe Gustos are the descendants of the Mist Valley clan, and I can't remember the exact details outside of the Steel Swarms and trying to destroy Gustos, if I recall, and then Gishi being dicks to, well, they're just dicks in general. In lore, I believe Gishis try to take the Gustos resources, but Gem Knights step in, and some even more shit went down. Look, this is why I hate dual tonal lore. It's needlessly confusing and sucks. Looking into the archetype's release history, they first came out in the dual tonal set Raid of the Inverse in 2010, but that's OCG exclusive. Their TCG release was either Generation Force or dual tonal 5B. This wiki isn't exactly that useful, but at least we were able to pin down their release date to around 2011. Considering 2010-2011 Yu-Gi-Oh was like peak Synchro and Gishi format, I was expecting Gusto to not have much going for it back then. But from what I researched, it looks like the format was just slow enough for Gusto's battle flowing style to work. But considering Zetas was about to be launched into the meta a few sets later, they didn't have much time to breathe. Probably at best a year-ish, considering the release date for sets. While researching the deck's history, I noticed there's a lot of deck variations, most of them using other wind-based archetypes to help the strategy, which I think says more about how wonderfully powerful the wind card pool is than Gusto's flexibility as a deck, but I can certainly understand their build on Gusto now. I mean, I got into Time Thief due to how flexible the archetype was when it came to incorporating other strategies, so why can't the same be said for Gustos? I mean, I can think of some reasons why, but I need to be unbiased and fair. Anyway, before the new wave of support, this deck really just relied on setting its flows and hoping they float hard enough to start activating their back row or making plays, and let's be honest, that's a pretty bad playstyle. I get it's trying to emulate the defensive playstyle of defending the castle, but I feel like decks like Ghost Rick and Bujin have much better takes on a playstyle like this, and Konami seem to agree. As we will see with all future support, they tried to help them by speeding them up, something we will see in the card breakdown. That was a segment and a half, but How am I supposed to say something funny about the archetype to do the segue when I can't insult it? Well, if I can't insult my way through a segue, I'm going to insult my way through a card breakdown. And let's start with the tuners, because why not? This is a synchro archetype, so they do live or die by their archetypal tuners. So let's start with the lowest level tuner, Eagle. Eagle isn't really that special, to be honest. He's just a tuner with a convenient level for this archetype, because you aren't going to be getting his float effect off, which only procs on battle. He also shows this wonderful trend of the only good tuners in this archetype being birds. I would say his float effect is a burden to this archetype, but that title belongs to the level 2 tuner, Falco, who gets the reward for the most promising looking card at a glance. Don't let the fact it says if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you get 3 monsters for you, because that shit doesn't proc on Synchro or Link Summon. Oh yes, you need to pop it via card effects, and his effect is useless unless you want to do some gimmicky community build with Setter Uppercut. I mean, the alternative is Squirrel, so pick your poison. You want at least 2 level 2s and level 1 tuners in your deck when you're playing Gustos, so yeah, you're going to be running 2 Eagles and then 2 Squirrel, unless you really want to use Falco. Keeping in trend with dumbly designed bird-based floaters, Goldo is the best bird tuner floater, and he's a zero-off. Why? Because Vifa exists now, who replaces both Goldo's status as a level 3 tuner by just being actually well designed. I mean, Goldo probably still has his users, but if you want to run a second set of level 3 tuners, that's when you want to run Goldo. I can I can still recommend better level 3 tuners when we get to the World Tech Options section. Thief is a mandatory free off anyway, just for having amazing synergy with the archetype, which is, well, a first for this deck. Now, before we move off the birds, I have a dishonorable mention. This card is one of the main reasons I wrote this deck off as pure dual-terminal garbage, because it was printed as post-release support in the Zexal era. Behold, Gusto Condor, the worst design card I ever seen. Let's begin with the fact that it needs you to run over something to begin with. With that shit stat line, this was the beginning of Zexal era. We had an easy way to slap shit like Utopia on the field, and I'm pretty sure this is still peak Synchro Spam era, so it had very limited targets to run over. There's also no way to boost it within the archetype at the time without slapping at least 2 Falcos on the field for it to be, well, reasonable. Honestly, if they just made it a float effect, this card will be the best float in the deck, but they decided it needed to run over something to proc its effect. It's sheer garbage, and you should never run it. Let this card be crucified so it can be an example of what support cards shouldn't be. Something that completely flies in the opposite direction of its archetype's design and fails at it too. The good thing, Konami did realize it fucked up with the post-release support and continued to rectify its mistake by making one of the most powerful playmakers for its era. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration, but Pelica is amazing for this deck. Recovering any wind tuner from your graveyard is quite strong, and is even stronger now thanks to Vifa's setup potential. The fact Vifa is also a very convenient level that lets you make 2 of the best archetypal singlers with yet again Vifa setup, it would be a bannable offense to not play Fever. Pelica is a very good lolly, who only gets better when she becomes a Ritual support. Eat shit, Gusto players, we stole your best card! Covering the last of the main deck monsters, there's like only 2 worth considering, and 2 more I want to bring up. So let's talk about our level 4 options, Cam and Musto, which are very weird names, but they are your good level 4 options, since the other one is Funbolt, which is like, ew. Anyway, Cam is the better card of the 2 in my opinion, just as a consistency boosting option, but Musto definitely has some usage due to the fact he can just negate a card for a turn. I like to run Cam at 3, and Musto seeing side deck usage if you want to be a little bit more competitive. Heh, being competitive Gustos. That's kind of funny. The other 2 I want to mention is Reese and Windar, and I'm only bringing them up because one of the new support cards make it very easy to summon them now, but they are very gimmicky. Windar is just slightly better Condor, except now it summons from the graveyard instead. And reasons just why. At best, I could see it being a way to take their boss monsters, give them your floaters, run over the floater, and get a new monster out of it, making it a net positive. But still, why? Fund these if you want to get a little gimmicky. And also, fun fact, reason the law of Dual Eternal is the mother of Pelica. Who's the father? Kimiri, who in his Gusta form looks like an underage child. I'm just saying, it's weird, and I wish Ally Justice was still around to stop this sort of shit from happening. Moving into the slightly disappointing extra deck lineup, let's just speed through the bad ones. Falco is situational, Goldos is okay if you want to be psycho removal, Eagles sucks as back row removal, Emerald is impossible to summon in this deck, and the same goes for Phoenix. So let's talk about the best synchros. I can never get this. Ramp, Vampilica, and Spees. Why did they make Ramp, Vampilica a synchro instead of Ritual Beast Fusion? Is this because we took him with Arcus? Anyway, Vampilica is really good and is also a one-off. It's surprisingly hard to set up Vampilica's effect, but when you make it work, it's really good. It's a 3-second synchro, which is usually going to be Spees. She's unironically the best synchro because she turns the battle floating gimmick into stop hitting yourself the deck. Also, the fact she recovers a gusto on summon is pretty good. Also, before you get any ideas, I would not recommend overlaying Ramp, Vampilica, and Speeds into a rank 6 because there's only one target, and it's not even worth it. Moving to the rather small back row lineup, which, it consists of like 5 cards. It's that small. Let's start with Backwind. This is an extremely strong combo card. It not only protects your monsters from being popped by card effect, covering for Speeds' weakness, also lets you summon monsters from the deck, making it an amazing combo piece. Mandatory free off, and probably going to be the only Gusto back row you'll be running because the rest aren't that good. The only other spell option the deck has is Contract with the Gusto, which just is a waste of space. And the Recycle 2 to pop a monster isn't exactly good, especially because we have Digusto Goldos, so don't bother with it. As for traps, they are mediocre at best. Duststorm is a side deck option if you're worried about Warlocks being a frequent threat at your locals. Blessing's an okay archetype reborn. And Whirlwind has both the best card art in the archetype and one of the worst activation conditions for a decent effect. If it didn't require you to have no monsters, it would be a decent setup card, but the condition makes it, a niche card. Rather disappointing and for a mediocre archetype. Now, the good thing about Gusto is the fact it's a wind deck, and believe it or not, wind has the best lineup of special tech options just to the sheer existence of certain archetypes, especially Speedoids. Now, I would love to talk about them in this video, but considering one of my future videos is Usenju's, an archetype that really benefits from Speedoid's existence more, I'm going to give them a spotlight in that video. For this video, we're going to focus more on the specific tech to run in Gustos, starting with 2 of the hand trap options. Also, by the way, if you do want to use the Speedoid cards, I would heavily recommend using Card Turbo. That's a really good splashable level 3 wind tuner that I was talking about earlier. Run it at 3 if you really want that second set of level 3 tuners. I say hand traps, but honestly, one of these 2 cards is more used as a searcher, so here's Wine the Wind Medium and Koldo, returning from the Charm video. We covered them before, why Wine is good at least in any wind archetype in both the Ritual Beast video and the Charmer video. So let's talk about Koldo. Koldo is a generic slide deck option. Run him if you hate back row. Okay, now for a slightly more serious suggestion. Alcator and Sylphid for board building. Like, Alcator is really good against mono decks for just being a free level 6 and having a card negate effect. And Sylphid is a free level 4, so you might have a chance to make Immel, or even better, Lightning Shidori. Also, Garuda is an option, but he looks ugly, so just use Sylphid. You might think I'm finally down with the gimmicky options, but you would be wrong, because there's Ghost Fairy, Elphioba, and Mystical Fairy, Elfuria, your dumbass stun options. Personally, I think Elphobia That's such a dumb name. Sorry, that really caught me off guard. Is the more viable option due to how universally useful it is, but Alfuria, which is also kind of a dumb name, is stronger since, well, it stops an entire mechanic from happening, making it more useful for certain matchups. There are also very convenient levels for Totem Bird, which is also very easy to make in this archetype as well, because yet again, Viva and Pillago. Please consider these options if you want to go for a more stun focused, or you could just run Gozen. Just saying. Okay, ending on a more serious note, I'm going to do something I hate and point out the obvious, just because I know people will mention it in the comments if I don't. So, you want to play Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon? I'm joking. It's a Windwitch engine. Even with the new support, the good old ratios of 3 Glass Bell, 1 Ice Bell, 1 Snow Bell, and obviously 1 Stardust Dragon, or Crystal Wing if you prefer, is still very good. This might be 2021 where shit like No More Ruler and Kaijus are prevalent, but Crystal Wing is just a really strong card, and being able to easily make it is very good, especially in this deck. Run Windwitch if you want 3 wins. Also, Symphonic Engine, I guess, if you want extra normal summons. Going through your extra deck options real quick, since it's the last thing I want to talk about. Mistworm is budget neutral. Wolf Rat is a very funny card to make if you want to play mind games with your opponent. Kai Drake if you want to play Speedroid Engine and want to nuke. Diamond Bell is, well, if you hate Crystal Wing. Psychic Nightmare is an alternative level 6 synchro, and same can be said about Chambara and Hastor, which are just alternative level 5 and 4 synchros, respectively. That's about it for interesting win tech options. If there's any more, feel free to bring them up, and expect a mini essay on Speedroids in the future, because that deck is just amazing in what it does for win. It's like, I'm serious, we will be talking about Gustos, no not Gustos, win Speedroids in depth when you get to use Senjus. I got 2 decklist options here, one which completely focuses on making Gusto a part of Win.deck with the help of previously mentioned Windridge and Speedroid, as well as Marina, the true Draco Phoenix, because it's just a way to pop that level 2 that I hate. I think it's Falcos, I can't remember, it's been a while. Anyway, here's a more Gusto reliant option which makes use of Tilted Try, my new favourite tech option for any deck that doesn't rock a good field spell already. It's cheap and is a consistency booster. What's not to love about this card? You could also probably make a variant that splashes Gustos into Harpies to make them Synchros, but probably not worth forcing. Gustos is still horrible, but I have gained a weird appreciation for the deck, even though the deck is horrifying to read through. The deck still has diamonds in the rough, and the new support really helps those diamonds shine. Plus, compared to the other dual tendrils archetype, this is definitely on the more competent end. I mean, it's not as competent as Ritual Beast, but it's there at least. Now, Konami, give us good Ritual Beast support so I can put Gustos back in their place. So, welcome to the end of the Gusto video, which surprisingly had a lot of mistakes that I noticed in editing. Probably because I speed edited this video in literally let's see, I started recording around 5, so yeah, it's 5 hours. It's been 5 hours, the fastest I've done. So if this video seems to have rushed, that's why. I'll probably explain why in a separate video, why I had to rush this. Probably will be uploaded around the same time this video goes out, so go watch that, that'll explain. But anyway, before I take this video even further, thank you for watching. So, next video, I already decided it will be Senjus, because I thought it would be very funny if the third video we do is another wind archetype, and then I'll be one step closer to justifying me writing an essay about Secret Forces, but in order for me to write that essay on Secret Forces, I would need to learn Necrods, and I really don't want to learn Necrods, so yeah, expect next video to be Senjus with that little mini essay on Speedroids, because seriously, Speedroids, especially with the new support we're getting in, I don't even know what it's called, Duels of the Whirlwind, that Speedroids is just amazing. Arc V had a lot of good decks when I think about it. I think Arc V definitely defined a meta, well not a meta, like a whole era in itself, which I think a lot of people won't, well, accept because a lot of people don't like Pendulum. But then Link happened, so I don't know. I think I hate Link more than Pendulum Error. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you did like what you saw, please consider subscribing and maybe even joining the Patreon. Um, if you do join the Patreon, it does help me fund getting better equipment. Maybe even help myself teach myself do better things. You always get access to the scripts early, and usually the videos early. In this case, I decided I'll just upload straight away because it's been a while since the last video. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you for you Senjus.